To Marketing Unleashed. It's another crazy day with technology. That's why we're a little bit late today and, sending out the wrong links. It's always nice when I send out the right links to our guests, but we're all here now. By the way, thank you for joining us today. It's going to be a great show. We've got extra special guest who I love geeking out with today. This is going to be all about you. So you guys let us know down below your questions all about Facebook. We're talking about today, growing organically. And we would love it if you were like, oh my gosh, I know somebody who this would be so interesting and they need to hear this. Well, mention them down below, call them into the conversation. Even if they check the replay, it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited.
Call Elisa, them on the phone. I mean, send them a telegram, whatever you're going to do.
Right, exactly.
They don't want to miss this.
Yes, and we're actually going live on Amazon Live as well. So if you guys want to check out we're doing all of Holly's books are down below. If you want to check out those and purchase those, I'm sure she would appreciate those. But hey, Elisa, since you joined us late, I want to throw you under the bus and let you introduce our guest.
Fair enough. Yes, we're very excited. So as you may or may not know, we have been doing a bi-weekly show, which is all about Pinterest all the time. And we asked you, would you like to hear a little bit more than just Pinterest? We love Pinterest. We'll keep talking about Pinterest every other week, but you said yes, we want to hear all the things, which makes sense, right? We need to diversify and figure out which platforms work best for us and then get those platforms working for us. So when we decided to do this, our first thought was Holly Homer.
Yes.
So we were very happy when she said yes. Holly is the founder of kidsactivitiesblog.com, and she also has a 3.5 million member Facebook page and a Pinterest account with over 370,000 followers. This lady knows a thing or two about making Facebook work.
She does.
So yeah, we're gonna pull out as much as we can. Give us your questions. That's right. I can see it coming out now.
That's true.
Yeah. So bring your questions. We have quite a few conversation starters, but this is for you. Let's be honest. It's also a little bit for me because I love this excuse to learn from smart people.
I know.
Right?
That's what I've done my entire career. That's all I've done is interviewed people who are awesome. And we want to give some shout outs to Brian from Barcelona. Oh my gosh, look at my text. That is monstrous. That's because I was doing Guy Kawasaki show and he likes it big. So there you go. Welcome for everybody who is tuning in. It is so cool that you guys are here. So we would love to get your questions. We've got Heather saying, hi, guys. Hi back, Heather. Hello. So we've already got some Facebook questions dropping in the comments, but we're going to let Holly talk a little bit and see what she says. So the first one.
Is she allowed to talk?
She is. Okay. She is.
Okay, good.
So, Holly, you've been doing this. Man, I met you the first time before I even spoke at Social Media Marketing World. It must have been like 2014 or 15 or something like that. When you were in San Diego.
Yeah, I think it was 2014, maybe the first time.
Yeah. But you've been doing this for a while. So what,
since the dinosaurs roamed the internet.
That's right. Back when you had to, you had to hear that when we dialed up and used AOL chat groups.
AOL CD-ROMs, yes.
Exactly. So my first question is, what are some of the challenges of marketing organically on Facebook? What's the biggest challenge you think there is out there?
So I think the biggest challenge, I would say, is that we lose sight so often when we are promoting something that this is a social network. And algorithms are getting better and better and better at eliminating spam. And spam to an algorithm is not like, what we think of spam. Spam to an algorithm is anything that doesn't get engagement. It's just going to mark it off the list. It doesn't have to show it in the feed. So the problem is if you're doing something even at all salesy or promotionally or otherlies, you're just not going to get any conversation going on it because this is a social network. So we have to figure out how to get people talking around what we're talking about or starting conversations, continuing conversations. Otherwise, we're just going to be lost in the feed.
Awesome. So but how do you, so this is my question. So how do you balance, because I know it's a social network, but we've got to make money. And I know you're making money on it. You're killing it. So how do we find that balance? Is there like some secret sauce of being salesy, but also, you know, I don't know, being like, what's on the trends, what all the kids doing, you know, is that how you do it? I mean, how can you walk that line, I guess?
Yeah. So I have almost gotten to the point where I throw out salesy. I don't even think it works. People can see it a mile away. If you are you're better off trying to promote it like a catalog, you know. And the thing is people don't buy products; they buy from people, and they buy solutions. So all you really need to do is figure out what problems you're solving and why other people would want that, and have conversations around those where you're meeting and connecting with other people on a true level. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we're soulmates. It's more like, hey, I know that Holly girl, she makes me laugh, or she's just like me because, or she reminds me of my sister because she's so nuts. And oh, she sells the stuff like that I need. And so like then it's not a sale anymore. It's a match. Because like if you know, like, and trust me, then and you know that I have something that's going to solve a problem, that's not even a question. You're going to be like, hey, Holly, what is that thing you sell? Because I want some, because I know you and I trust you and I know you're not spammy. But like, I feel like what we've done in social media is cut out that relationship and that conversation. And we're just like, hey, I'm Holly, and hey, buy this. We need to
when has that ever worked? When has that ever worked?
So I know that, and I know I had to get over this hurdle too. And I know you've talked to people about it, but I know businesses or people who are selling stuff, because we all have to make a living, are going, but I'm giving away my stuff for free. I can't give away my stuff for free. How am I going to, what content should I do? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I mean, there's some areas I would assume that there is a problem with giving stuff away for free. But on the other hand, like, I can't tell you, I mean, like, I have everything in the world that I've ever taught is for free on, you know, like you can get it. I have 13,000 blog posts on my blog. I have, you know, I don't know, 150 YouTube, you know, videos. I have thousands of hours of Facebook Live video. So like the truth is, if you wanted to know everything I know, you could just follow me around on the internet and watch all that stuff. The thing is who has time for that? Like I've accumulated that over 15 years. Right. And so what we've got to stop thinking about is that you're selling this. You're not selling this. You're selling this. Like you are keeping all the, like if you have an informational product, you're selling information, but actually what you're doing is you're selling, hey, tune out all this information and just do this. Because like if you Google things now, like what is it, like 17 million results on your average like Google?
Yeah.
We don't have a lack of information in this world. What we have a lack of clarity and very concise steps to get there.
You know, our friend Jennifer Priest, who we have on, and we talk about Pinterest a lot, will ask, what is the price of free? And I think that is such a great question. You could spend years pouring through everything that's available in whatever topic you want to learn about, but what is the cost of that?
Yeah. And like, seriously, like when I like take on coaching clients and stuff like that, I'm not pricing that as like, oh, it's going to take me 3 hours to do this, because that's not what it's valued at. The value is, no, this is a area where I can literally shorten your journey by 5 years. Like, and then I take a discount off that because I can't charge you that much.
Right.
But the truth is if you could skip ahead, and this is part of the conversation we have to have with our potential customers. And this is not just true for informational products, but I used to do like a skincare line, and literally what is the cost of looking old? I mean, at that point, you're like, hey,
we have to talk about that.
Yeah,
it's free right now. It's very free. Yeah.
It's free. Yeah. What's the cost of free?
Yeah.
But for $79, I can make that go away. So like all of a sudden, and then, well, that sounds super spammy if you've never met me before and you don't know my age and you don't know my lifestyle and you don't know that I actually live what I preach. But then if you get to know me and you see me and you hear me and you know my story, all of a sudden that's not spammy. You're like, heck, I need some of that. Whatever that is you have, I want some.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the things that when you were talking, and our friend Jay Barris says this all the time, he goes, just because you have the recipe, that doesn't make you a chef. Going back to the time is, you have all this stuff out there and it's all out there. If you went to all these podcasts or books, all that stuff, you'd find it. But sometimes we don't have time to sort, what do you have more of, time or money? And so it kind of goes down to that sometimes as well. So
it does.
Or what do you have the potential of getting more?
Right. That's right.
There's only a limited amount of time.
Right.
So true. All right. I want to ask a personal question, Holly. Okay. You have 3.5 million people on your Facebook page. Did you ever feel like giving up?
Oh my gosh. On a daily basis and like a weekly basis and then like a quarterly crash basis. And the thing is so in general, Facebook is a math game. I mean, like any algorithm is a math game. It's all about like getting eyeballs, numbers onto it, and then numbers interacting with it. Because you can't get people interacting with it if they don't see it, and so forth. So we're always looking at the numbers. And so, it was really fun to grow the page. Like that was really an exciting time because like you see progress and numbers are going up. And then, for the last couple years, like we've been at, between 3 and 3.5 million followers during that time over, we haven't been losing a lot, but we haven't been gaining a lot. And the reach has been pulled back more and more and more, just like everybody else is feeling. And so it can be discouraging to a level that I didn't know was out there.
All new levels of discouragement.
Yeah, I mean, like when you post, like I have a smaller page, like I think my Holly Homer page has like 4,000 fans on it. When you post something on that and like 120 people see it, you're like woohoo!
Right.
Yeah. When you post something on a 3.5 million page and 120 people see it, it's not the same feeling.
Right.
No.
That's a whole level of failure that you didn't know was possible.
So why do you keep doing it?
So, well, first of all, because I'm like the most persistent person you'll ever meet in your life.
I think that's important. Yeah.
And there is a method to that madness. I always say, like in the blogging world, one of my successes is that I'm the last blogger standing. Like I'm still doing this 15 years later. And the same thing's going to happen with Facebook and with Pinterest and with, Twitter and with all these algorithms, which are very similar, by the way. But is that who is going to succeed at this if it's not me? Like I have thousands and thousands and thousands of hours invested in this platform, which is what the price of free is on Facebook. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. And so like, there is a point where, okay, I could get frustrated, and I totally have like walked away and said, this is not worth it. This is absolutely not worth it. But then I'm like, okay, is it worth it to see if it's worth it? And so that's generally where I go, like that's where my brain goes, because I use everything as kind of a laboratory. Okay, let's do some tests to see if it's worth it. And then once you kind of flip that from being like mortally offended that Facebook doesn't love you anymore.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been there.
That's right.
To really like, okay, Facebook, Like, you're smart, I'm smart. Let's see what we can do together. And truthfully, truth be told, Facebook needs me. Facebook needs you. Facebook needs quality content creators, people who are going to keep the conversation uplifting and happy, and not yell at people and not scream at people, right. Not put people into crazy political spectrums, not push them into cults. I mean, they need us. So I'm a cult-free, political-free person on the internet. So
you said on a show you are the equivalent of the internet toast. That's what you want to be. Yeah, you're toast.
I'm as controversial as toast on the internet.
That's right.
So Facebook needs me. And I'm there to we have a strategy on Quirky Mama, my Facebook page, that we're the vacation from your problems. Because I'm a really big fan of What About Bob, the movie. And so we're a vacation from your problems. So everything we post is going to be happy and uplifting and something you can do, even you can do. And so when Facebook actually pays attention to what we're doing, they really love it. It's just when there's an election or something going on, we get drowned out, and it can be really discouraging. But last Facebook user
Facebook user standing.
I know someday there's going to be a picture of me in an encyclopedia.
Yeah,
she's the last one.
You know how YouTube gives out the play buttons? You'll be like the Holly Homer Award, where you'll get for being on Facebook for 100 years.
40 years.
Yeah, Facebook's we tried to stop her 1,000,000 times, and she just kept going.
That's right.
Energizer Bunny of Facebook.
Right.
So I kind of want to go back to the title of this episode, which is, I thought was a little bit gutsy, right? How to make Facebook marketing work without paying for ads. Is that still possible?
Yes, in fact. So what people don't realize is there is still a massive amount of organic traffic to be had on Facebook. So, and we all knew that years ago, because, we were it was easy. You could post something and you would get traffic. Well, I always have to knock on wood when I say things, but last month my blog got over 1 million page views from Facebook. So that was last month, 2021. Wow. We have had some months that weren't nearly as generous from Facebook very recently. But last month was really probably one of our best months in about 10 months from Facebook. And so it just goes to show that there are cycles. And if you're just always doing what you think is best, looking at the data, making adjustments, keep pushing what's working, even if it's only working a little bit, that at some point, things start to pay off, because you were one of the few people doing that. You're not catching lightning in a bottle. You're slow and steady wins the race. It's not glamorous being the turtle, but it's a good turtle life.
Yeah.
It's me and the metaphors today.
I know. So we got turtles, we got chefs. It's just going crazy. So I know you're a big data nerd. You do a lot of data stuff, and you've always gone back to that. So when we're talking about growing organically, what are some of the things that you see people doing wrong? What is the biggest thing stands out when people are trying to grow organically on Facebook? What are they doing wrong that you go, oh, I used to do that, but now I do this?
Yeah, so the biggest problem is really that whole definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. And that is never going to work. In fact, the algorithm is onto that. The algorithm is going to be off.
Right.
So you're playing into the whole insanity thing. And I see this so much where people and people have been sold this bill of goods that these are complicated things. posting on Facebook is very complicated and you need a $1,000 course to learn how to do it. And that, that you need to post a certain number of times a day or a certain number of times a week. And I have to be a certain percentage of engagement and blah. Like, no, stop. What you need to do is post something. I don't even care what it is. Go see if Facebook liked it. If Facebook liked it, go post something similar to that. And again, Facebook didn't like it, try something else. And that's the path. That is literally the path to success on not only Facebook, but any of these algorithms, because they are written in a way that when you find the path to success, you can repeat it. It's an algorithm. It's not a judge. We're not figure skating here. It's literally once the numbers align, you just keep doing it. And then if you want to do more of it, you post more often. If you want to do less of it, you post less often. The only caution I would say, and you don't have to pay me $1,000, although I would take your $1,000, is that I would stay a little bit consistent. Like one of the things most algorithms kind of hate is if you're like, I'm going to post 47 times today and then go away on vacation for the next 6 months and then come back and do 47 more. They're more of a even keel kind of thing because it's data driven. So they want that data just coming in pretty consistently. So that's the only caution I would give. But if you're just starting out, like what's the big problem if you post 7 times on one day, just test things out and then post 5 things the next day, test things out, that kind of thing.
So Erin brings up this great question. She goes, how do you know if Facebook liked it? Because I get some likes, sometimes I get 100 and sometimes I get 5. So how do you judge what works? And I know you have spreadsheets. I know, Holly, just like all this. Google's like, we're not going to let you add any more data to your account because you have too much. So
I can't even find them anymore, so I don't even use them.
But how do you know? And then how do you track it, I guess?
Yeah. So Erin, that's a really good question. So if you're talking about your personal profile, there's not a ton of data that Facebook gives you. So you're going to have to kind of go gut off of a combination of likes and comments. So just like if we were going to, and I'm sure in the algorithm somewhere this is a thing, but if we were going to rate things and we give maybe like a thumb up, like 1 point, and a comment like 5 points, and a share 10 points. I want you to kind of think of it that way. So if you have a post that maybe didn't have a lot of comments, but it had a lot of shares, that's a really good thing. So that's how you're going to tell on your personal profile. And so what I do is like if I post something and I have 100 comments on it, I know it's something that like the people that like me like to talk about. So I might post something else similar to that in another week or 2. Now on your page, on your Facebook page, and your Facebook group also has some of these same things, is that at the bottom, when you're logged in, at the bottom of each post, it's going to give you a reach number, like how many people that post reached, in addition to the likes and the comments. And I like that reach number. Now, I just saw that Facebook's taking away analytics in the next 4 months.
What is that? Okay, what is that? I saw that Peg Fitzpatrick emailed me going, what is it? What's going on?
I don't know. And the truth is, I only use really 1 or 2 stats, and it's the reach number that I use. And I will look at like the comments and the likes to kind of figure out that reach number when I was first getting started on all this. But I really like that reach number because I feel like it has the Facebook math all done for you. So when you look and when you open up your Facebook analytics that you're going to have for a few more months, is that, and who knows what it looks like next, but anyway, like there's these orange bars when you open up the insights that you can see all your posts on top of each other, and long orange bar is good and short orange bar is bad. It's the amount of reach each of those posts got. So and this is not like, oh my gosh, this got seen by 3 more people than this got seen by. Like, no, like figure out kind of what's your average. Did it do better than average? Did it do worse than average? Like I need this to be a split second, not worry about like all you're doing is testing. So even if the next post goes out and it fails, you just have more data. So like just taking these things one by one and just looking at kind of how the reach was, if it was something that, because the reason why I like reach number is that there's just some topics that people aren't going to discuss, or there's some things they're not going to share. And like, for instance, I'm in the parenting space. So on Quirky Mama, we have one of our very, very most popular posts is how to not yell at your kids. Great post. Not something most people are sharing onto their Facebook wall.
So true. So
hey,
true.
I just learned how not to yell at my kids today.
Right.
It's just, but we see that that reach number is really, really quite large, even though people are scared to comment on it. They may not even like it. They may not share it, but they're clicking through, which is also an indicator to Facebook that is something that people are engaging with. So that's why I like that number. And then you'll see like the question, like, what do you have, where are you going on vacation this summer? Like you might have a ton of comments on that. But you're in that number, that reach number may not be really high because that's all they did was they commented and didn't come back they didn't answer anyone. They didn't like share it. They didn't, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't a deep conversation. It was just something they quickly engaged with.
Yeah, I have a question to you because I'm wondering how much of that reach number do you think is solely dependent on that one post, and how much of it is influenced by the success of previous posts?
So I think that's a really good question. I do not know the answer to that other than my gut tells me that there is a significant snowball effect. And not just a significant snowball effect for you and your page, but it's actually I would think of it as multiple snowballs kind of rolling at the same time. So there's snowballs between you, the page, and that fan or that follower. So like if that follower interacts with your post a lot, that follower is going to be more likely to see it in their feed. And then the other thing I think is really strong is topical. So like, let's say that you follow my page and you have just a passion for paper plate crafts. And so every time you see a paper plate craft on Facebook, you interact with it. But you haven't seen much from Quirky Mama in a while because we haven't really done that many paper plate crafts this month, which isn't true. We totally did. But anyway, and so I finally published on Facebook that paper plate craft, and Facebook is actually going to be like, oh, Elisa needs to see that. So like that reach is going to be not just like kind of the authority of the page, the engagement in that post, but also is it topical in a way that your followers want to interact with it and want to see it?
That makes sense.
On that same kind of topic, how important it is for growing organically, because you mentioned the snowball effect, is like getting on board with their new tools. Like, for example, what place does Facebook Stories have in this whole growing your organic kind of thing that we've been talking about?
So if you're not doing Facebook Stories, you've got to do this. Like, it is free traffic, people. Like, I feel like Facebook Stories was like the ugly stepchild that Facebook put in there.
Right.
And then they like left it in like, 2015 algorithm. And then the rest of Facebook is in 2021 algorithm. So like,
it's also like combined with Instagram, which I find very confusing. Like, is it an Instagram story or is it a Facebook story or is it both?
I don't do both. Like, I don't do the crossover. I do a story for Facebook or a story for Instagram. I've just always been independent of those things because they're different platforms. Like the person on Instagram and the person on Facebook, they're not the same person. Like your grandma's on Facebook.
My kids are on Instagram.
Your kids are on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not even this is not even like within 50 years of each other. So like, I just I never do the auto thing or even the cross thing because I'm wanting to really tailor whatever I'm doing to that, because I'm going to be going back and looking at the statistics and the analytics of that. And it's really muddies the water when you're like, oh, well, I just published this to 16 places. But then there's no way of saying, well, where did that traffic come from? Did it, like, am I messing up on one platform, but doing well on another with that same content? And that's generally what I find is like, it'll do really well on Facebook, but suck on Instagram. And so then you've just taught Instagram to ignore you and Facebook's engaged with you.
That's really good. So stories, we need to do them is what I'm hearing you to say.
Yeah, you really do. And the good news is you don't need to do a ton. And they're really easy to do. And if you have, like, I think the swipe up is at less than 10,000, by the way. I don't know if anyone knows that, but the swipe up on that is pretty effective because a lot of the Facebook users are on their phone. And I think you are attracting a different, I think you are getting a younger user in the Facebook stories just because the older people don't even know it's there.
Mom doesn't know. She doesn't know what's going on.
No.
So
my mother will never see my Facebook stories.
So are Facebook stories or kind of like Instagram, are they organic? Do you not I don't need to make a production of a video. It's just me opening my phone and go, hey, check out my blog, or what are you finding that works with Facebook stories?
Yeah, in fact, I use a lot of a lot of my pin images and stuff. I think it's very visual. So I don't love to make a ton of stuff. So if I can repurpose maybe a pin image into a Facebook story, or a lot of times I'm just sending and I do them on my phone. So I just will, take a picture off of the blog post, or it doesn't have to be fancy and you really want to be able to add the words on top with the text. That's with the terrible text edit tool that they have in that.
Right.
So it's going to look like crap anyway. So don't spend a lot of time on it. And then you're just going to go back and look, and there's insights for stories, just like there is for anything else. It's in a little bit different place. You have to click on the stories and it will pull the story insights up. And then you'll be able to see, it's a really easy way. We had something that went completely viral via stories it was mid-February last year. And it was what we know about the coronavirus. I could have predicted the pandemic based on the amount of interest that people had with that story. And so it's really interesting. I do think you can get your fingers on the pulse of what's happening, site-wide for Facebook a lot of times, that you can't, there's just less noise in stories.
So on that Corona thing, do you, and this is a Mike Alton term, but do you newsjack? Do you go and okay, I know that everyone's talking about masks right now. It'd be a great craft for me how do I, make a mask with my kid or something like that? Do you do stuff like that where you're very topical and thinking what's in the news and that kind of stuff? Okay.
Absolutely. We create content every single day for social media that is outside of our kind of core content on Kids Activities blog. So early pandemic, and you have to be careful because pandemic was a little bit different because it's medical. And so even though I have several doctors on staff, believe it or not, no Kids Activities blog, we couldn't pass the muster on Google thinking that's authority and stuff like that. So you have to be careful. But one of my top actually pins was my homemade hand sanitizer recipe that we put out, of course, the first weekend.
Right.
I had I had a viral post on the weekend of the lockdown, which was a whole bunch of free educational resources for kids. And I think that thing, it hit all the major news networks. It had over 2,000 incoming links from serious, CNN, all this kind of stuff. And it was because of the Facebook post. And so that absolutely, but beyond the news, cause you're I'm kids activities, that's not what do we do? There's only so many, I don't know, like election crafts. I mean, like there's
right. Yes.
Maybe a couple.
So
Right.
I
Orange
need you to
dolls,
remember-
orange hair dolls. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
I had to go there.
exactly. Troll dolls.
Yeah.
But so we can't just rely on the big stories. And so what we try to do is find those like water cooler stories. So like and those of you who, I think I mentioned this at my, when I spoke at Social Media Marketing World last time, was one of the things that we figured out that was viral for us, and I would say viral, the algorithm allowed the conversation further than we expected. That's what, like, sometimes you can find these topics that are topical, like that, you're just going to get a bigger reach because more people are interested in it, was baby shark. Okay. So all of a sudden we started creating also, I have a category of baby shark content that is dominating Google right now because we wrote so much baby shark stuff for Facebook. Now Facebook doesn't love baby shark anymore, but but I now have all that content that Google likes. So, but then think about other things. Like another one that's big for us is we will write a lot about what's happening at Costco, what kind of cool things you can buy at Costco, because we all love Costco.
It's
like
true.
What mom doesn't want to go to Costco and eat lunch over all the samples?
Right.
So just thinking about what kind of quirky little things would catch your attention, those nostalgic things, those oh, I can't help but stop the scroll. That's the type of thing sometimes that that it doesn't have to be and you'll always see, in fact, I should look on Kids Activities blog just to give you some ideas. You'll always see something that's maybe just a little bit different. So here's one. Reebok is releasing Jurassic Park shoes.
Yeah.
So that's something in our space that is interesting to people. Target's car seat trade-in event. That's not top news, but it's going to get click-throughs from social media, those kind of things.
So what's interesting now, I know you have a whole team, right? Because you mentioned you have some doctors on your team. So you're not one or two people trying to do all of this on all the places. So what can you recommend for somebody who is in that position? Because if they do go over to Quirky Mama, they're going to see that there are a lot of posts every day. Do you have to post that much? And how much are you posting? Because I couldn't really count.
That's right. You lost count. Yes.
I did.
Yeah. So first of all, there was a time when I did a lot of this myself. But it was a different time, I wasn't, in my view of building your business, you can really only build one thing at a time. And so everything else is going to have to be pretty stable if you're building something or you're learning something new or you're mastering something. So when we were growing Facebook, the blog was kind of second fiddle to that. We just kind of kept it going and that kind of thing. So, and then once Facebook's kind of under control, it's a lot easier. So I run everything with editorial calendars. So we know exactly what's going to be published on the front page of Kids Activities blog each day. That triggers the person that pins for me, that triggers the person that posts the Facebook. And then this is just a helpful hint for those of you who are okay, I'm ready to hire just maybe one person to help me out, is I think it's so much if you're just getting a little bit of help, then I would give them kind of just one task that they can really make their own and make decisions within it. So right now, the person that runs my Facebook page, she knows more about what's going on it than I do. And she is completely free to do whatever she wants to test. So every once in a while, I'll go over to the page and I'll be like, what are we doing? But I trust her. And she's found things that work that I wouldn't have found. You know what I mean? So, but if you're just saying, okay, and the other mistake I've made in the past is I had that person separated from the analytics, which I can't believe I ever even thought that was going to work. But so like I was like, one person was making like pins and the other person was pinning them. Well, no, we need the person who's pinning and making the pins to follow the whole process, including the analytics. And the same thing happens on Facebook. And she's also the person that's in charge of writing the social content for the blog, because we're writing that Reebok post about the Jurassic Park shoes specifically for Facebook. So she needs to be able to see, oh, that subject was good on Facebook. That was a good post. That was a good choice, that, and so on. So that feedback loop needs to be in place. And so if you're going to tackle your own Facebook page, I need you to get your business in a place where you can spend a little bit of time every day concentrating on Facebook. Because if you're just going to hop in and out and then not see how things did, then you're going to be practicing that insanity thing. Like, you won't know to make changes.
That's a great point. And by the way, my Jurassic Park shoes are coming probably next week. So nobody gets to see my feet anyway. It's just amazing. They're amazing. I really did. I was like, really? Those are cool. So we've got a bunch of comments, and I want to make sure we get to questions, Elisa, before.
We have so many.
And we have so many good ones, and I could talk with Holly all day about this stuff because it's just fascinating. So. She's like she's not an evil genius. She's just a plain genius on this stuff, and it just makes me think.
People don't let me talk like this in real life. Only you guys let me talk like this.
Come back.
So, Rem asked this question. She says, "Is Facebook hiding content from your own followers if you're not using their Boost This Post feature?" I know that a lot of people have that question.
No, in fact, no, it's actually more insidious than that. Is they may just be hiding it because you're not getting any interaction. So the way I kind of think of it is like when you post something, depending on the size of your page, and Facebook's going to send it out to a certain number of that, maybe 1%, maybe 0.5% of those people. And if nobody stops the scroll for it, if nobody interacts with it, if nobody likes it, if nobody shares it, it's dead on arrival. And then let's say you've posted like that day after day after day. Well, I think Facebook's like, dudes, we've been giving you the information. Nobody wants to see that. Right. And they're just going to send it to less and less people. So you have less and less chance of it being seen. And so what you have to do is literally shake the dead. And that's what we did when we started the Quirky Mama growth. Is we had a page about 12,000 at that time, which was completely because of like giveaways and all those like incentives all those spammy incentives we used to be able to do on Facebook.
Those were so much fun.
They were so fun, but then like the page was dead. Like it was, and it was literally like, I'm going to either annoy the people to unfollow me, because that's an action. At least that's like life. Right. Or like, like if they are dead, then I want to make sure that like Facebook knows they're dead, and so that they can like remove them from the platform. And then there's going to be a small amount of people who are like really into what we're doing. And that's who I want to really talk to.
I noticed that you share, like, you have a ton of content of your own, so you share a lot of that, but I noticed that you do share other people's content, and you'll share like a meme or like a quote graphic that doesn't go anywhere. Do you have like a super secret mix of what you do, or no? Okay.
No,
there's no 80-20-70 rule.
Yeah, I mean, like, so when we were building the page, like, my philosophy was, I want to be the source on Facebook for everything a mom would want to know. And it doesn't matter if it's me, because if I don't have the best like lemon pie recipe, which I promise you I don't, then I want to go out, because the thing is those of us who live on the internet, we know things. Like, we know the best resources, we know the best bloggers, we know the best people in our space. And so if we can connect those like followers to those sources. So if I'm posting the best lemon pie recipe, and I'm posting the best way to not yell at your children, which happens to be mine, and I'm and I'm posting, all these things that a mom might be interested in, but it's the best and brightest on the internet, that all can't be mine. And so at that time, we were doing about 20 to 30% our own stuff and 60 to 70% other people's stuff, because the goal wasn't just traffic, but it was to grow a community around this conversation. Now, that was several years ago. So over those years, we've filled in the gaps on some of these things. I do have better family-friendly food today than I used to. I do have more, a lot of those content pieces that we had to go get somewhere else. We now have not the same thing, because we don't do that, but similar things, or things that fit that same category of conversation that we have, that is now Kids Activities Blog. But I don't think there's any I will say this. I don't think there's any problem with posting other people's stuff on your Facebook page. I do think you have to be careful if you're a large Facebook page and you're posting other people who pay people, and then Facebook will just assume that you're being paid too. So that's the only thing that I would, but most of you don't have to worry about that. Like, Facebook doesn't care. Like if you post a Wall Street Journal article today, they're going to be like, oh, and if that's the best article in what you want to talk about, start that conversation in the description, start having, get people engaged in it. You found the best thing that probably 99% of your followers never would have found without you.
That's a great point.
Oh, so now you have me a little scared, though. How would we know if we were sharing someone's content who usually pays for that?
I would say, don't worry about it. I shouldn't even say that, because they're not they're just trying to go out and find the bigger pages that are driving traffic for money, which I used to do a lot of, because it used to be legal. And so there's still people that are doing it.
Gotcha.
If you were posting the same 3 links from the same site every single day, I think you'd have a problem.
Gotcha.
No doubt.
So Deborah asked this question. She goes, Holly, first of all, I want to, Heather had this. She goes, haha, love Holly's humor, which that's why we love Holly. But do you find it useful to invite readers who have liked your Facebook post to like your page, or does Facebook see that as spam? Because, a lot of times they'll even suggest, hey, they liked your content, why don't you ask them to like your page? You'll see that if you have a page. Is that a good idea or not? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. In fact, at the beginning, I think it's a really good strategy. And the truth is that's the type of person you want to like your page. Like somebody who is already shown they're engaged with your content, they're the most, that's the best bet for when you post something again, that person will want to see it. So I think of all the tools that are out there as far as advertising and all that kind of stuff, that's one of the strongest ones, because you're not messaging your top 50 friends saying, hey, can you go like my page?
Right.
Because those 50 friends don't have that in common likely, but that person who liked that post may. So that's a much better. So I like that tool a lot. And I don't know that I would just use it for every single thing. But if you're building your page at the beginning, you need bodies, you need warm bodies there. So I don't think it's a problem for, especially for a while. And then if you're seeing growth, that's the other thing. If you're seeing growth and you continue to do it and you're still seeing growth, then I would keep doing it. This is your page, and it may be different than someone else's experience with that same tool.
Gotcha.
So you're doing this with the tool, invite someone to like this page? That's the mechanism you're using?
Yeah, it's right below. You can open up everybody who interacted and then just ask them to like the page.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's very smart, especially if you're doing live video.
Yeah, in fact, video is one of the strongest ways to do that, because that's those people, they already they hung out with you for a while and commented, they already are on that relationship, and you need to be able to reach back out and touch them to continue that relationship. Otherwise, you just met in the grocery store and you don't get to see each other.
Right. Just look to see what they got in their cart. Oh, they're buying that. Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's like Atrona is saying in the comments, it sounds very similar to what Pinterest does, or how you build an engaged audience on Pinterest. Like you find the people who already like your email, already like your blog, you get them on Pinterest, and then it will help increase the distribution of your content there. You're saying the same thing about Facebook, which is, it's nice when your knowledge can transfer.
Yeah.
And I would say 80 to 90% of any algorithm about is going to be the same on other things. Like literally we figured out the conversation, the topical thing on Facebook 2 summers ago because I had thrown myself into SEO for the summer. And so, and then continued. but that was because I was like, I saw how those keywords were working in Google in a way that was really unusual in the Discover platform and that kind of stuff. And then realized, Facebook needs the same trending thing, just like Reddit does, just like Pinterest does. These trending topics, it's not just those big news stories that that are the headlines. It's also these water cooler, smaller conversations that we can really get in on that trending for. There's less competition.
So on those same lines, Mary says this, Holly, what do you think about posting memes on a page, or should you stick 100% to niche content?
So I like niche content, but I am not like we talked about, this is a math game. So let's say, for instance, I know this is not personal or anything, but you have like a really sucky Facebook day. Like everything you post just like goes down in flames. And you're like, okay, like I think I've reached like 1% of my audience after 20 posts, then I pull out the crazy meme because like you just need numbers. So yes, I think those numbers are more important to your page if they're within the niche. But like it's a numbers game to a certain extent. Because the truth is, if we don't keep the numbers up with something, then our regular content's not going to be seen by as many people. So I try. It's a little bit like a glass of wine. Is like 1 or 2 every once in a while is good. Maybe not 6 or 7 or 8 in an evening is good.
Yeah, a box of wine ain't good. So
it's a little bit like a box of wine.
That's right. Yeah, that's too much consumption. So the question I have when you were talking about that, so let's say you throw out that meme, do you say, it didn't do well, and then try a different piece of content, or do you actually go in and delete it? Is it bad for it to sit there if it's not performing well?
I went around and around on this. I did a lot of testing when we were building the page. And this was, of course, a few years ago about deletion versus non-deletion. And I don't think it matters. I really don't. And I kind of like not deleting it because if you think about this math game being cumulative, even if it only got a tiny, tiny reach, that's better than 0, because if you delete it, it's gonna be a 0. So, gotcha. And this is where I kind of played the game, is a little bit more than nothing. Yeah. In my brain, always. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a math wizard, but
I don't do math on live video either. So we're running short on time, and this is just we have so many great questions. And there was one, I'm trying to find it, that I thought it was a really good one. I'm trying to find it. Oh, this is great. So Julia asked this question: how do large companies maintain a personal small business feel on Facebook? Because like you're saying, it's social. It's, the way you grow organically is giving people stuff that they can discuss and talk about and they share. But how do you, if you're a company or you're a brand, let's say you're just like a local flower shop, how do you do that without just advertising your what bouquets you have on sale and it's Valentine's Day and all that kind of stuff? How do you maintain that feel?
And to a certain extent, that like you're going to have a little bit of that with like a flower shop, but you're not talking people into buying flowers with a flower shop. You're like, hey, if you need flowers, here's what I have. So it's a little bit different conversation. But I will say, so one of the reasons why story selling and like putting a face in front of a brand is so popular, because it's so much easier to create content if it's like, this is what Holly thought today. Because like that could be anything, literally anything. But then, so it's one of the kind of the edges we have over these big companies is because like Chase Bank can't get the engagement that Quirky Mama can, because like, what are they going to talk about? Like,
right.
and it has to go through their legal team, and what a nightmare. So, but I do think like what you want to find is like, let's say you do have that flower shop. I would just explore all the conversations around flowers, and, you know, here's flower coloring pages. You know, of course I'm kids activities, so I think that way, but like, here's all the things, like here's, or does anyone know the name of this flower? I Googled the other day, what is the name of this flower? And I couldn't find, like, I mean, can you imagine the engagement if like every week you put up like this, what's the name of this flower? Like most of us have no idea.
Yeah.
So like that conversation that is like, think of how you can connect with people in a way that like is social. I know I said social, but is, you know, is like, oh, like that's a funny conversation. That's like something that you would say to a friend, like, oh my gosh, I've had these in my front yard for 2 years and I have no idea what they're called. And I'm going to the nursery and I don't know what to buy. Like, what do I ask for? The pink flowers with the green stem. Like, you know, I mean, like this is a funny conversation that we would have as friends.
Yeah. Well, this is so fascinating. This is so good. I know that we've got a lot of questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them today, but you make sure you guys go to Holly's website, kidsactivitiesblog.com. Check it out. If you're watching on Amazon, or you go back over onto the Amazon channel later, all her books. She's what, four or five books?
Yeah. In fact, my 4th one is coming out in May. And we're on the front page of Kids Activities blog we're doing a big bonus if you pre-order it. It's 500 kids activities. So if you have kids, this is a whole year's worth of activities easily. And if you don't have kids, it makes an amazing gift for people who do have kids. Take it from us who have kids.
Awesome. Well, all you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. You know, this is kind of where Elise and I were like, should we do these things? It's not really Pinterest, but everybody is saying, you know, like Deborah's going, I love this. Thank you for doing it. They love this conversation. So thank you, Trona. You're always here every week. We appreciate you, especially for stopping by. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a great thing where we can kind of expand on what we're doing. Hope educated you, because like Holly was saying, a lot of these algorithms work the same. Some of the things that you learn from one platform, you can use some strategies over there. And I think it just makes you a better marketer and business person the more you learn about this stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching. By the way, we want to make sure that you guys don't forget that we have these new what month is it now?
April.
It's April. It's April templates we have that Tailwind has put together, and they're also built right into Tailwind Create, where you can make them all inside of there, and they're just amazing. So make sure you guys check those out. It's bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit. That's all lowercase, all smashed together. bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit. Go check out those new templates. Elise, as always, I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah. So if you liked this episode, and I'm seeing that you are, let us know. I think we need to have Holly back, because we only got through half
Scratch the surface.
Half the questions. So if you'll come back and geek out with us again, that would be wonderful. Yeah. So thank you again. The one thing I picked out of your suggestions for Facebook stories was to use your pins. So that is a really great way to repurpose content easily. And if you go into Tailwind Create, you can make one in less than 2 minutes, get it out there and try it. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to try that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.